Good morning.
Good morning. Today is May 14th, 2023, and it's Mother's Day. And our title today at first doesn't seem to be much about Mother's Day, but I will tie it in. And the title is Unlearning the Fear of Darkness. And the truth is, I don't see a lot of feelings of darkness amongst our people right now, but certainly we are seeing it in the country. So that's what we would like to address. And let's begin with an opening affirmative prayer. So if you'd like to go within and join me in consciousness, let's know that the truth is that there is not a spot where God is not. So how can it ever be in darkness? We know that the creative energy that we call God is everywhere present. There is not a speck in the universe where God is not. So, how can it be dark? Well, certainly we have the appearance of darkness when things seem sad or bad. And so we know that beyond that truth, there is the real truth, which is God is everywhere, which means light is everywhere, which means love is everywhere. And I choose to know that that love, light, and wisdom is present within me. It's present within my heart, my mind, and I see the love in every bit of life. So this I know to be true. This I give thanks for. I release this truth now to the universe, and together we say,
And so
and
it is.
so it is.
When you were saying that, I was reminded of taking off from an airport one time. And as we were taking off, it was dark, it was cloudy, heavy black clouds. And within a couple of minutes, we were above the clouds. And the most striking thing about it is the light didn't come on, it had always been on.
Right.
And the condition of the clouds covering made it look as if there was no more sun, there was no more light.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to realize that the clouds in our lives are conditions. They're not permanent. They're not fixtures. They're not there to create darkness. They are there helping us to appreciate our experience.
Right. And Bob and I were talking about we hear a lot, we see a lot that's going on in our world right now that makes us just shake our head. Thank goodness we're not experiencing it. But there is a lot of strife in the world right now. I've never seen so many murders and suicides in our country. And that is indeed a dilemma. And across the world, we're actually seeing it across the world now. And and then of course there's the war in Ukraine that is in our living rooms every day. So on our TVs, thank God. And it's easy to look for the darkness and see the darkness. And a lot of people are experiencing depression right now. So there's never been so much on mental health on TV and radio and everywhere. Online, lots of access online, thank goodness. But, I was thinking of Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, who wrote Be Here Now, and another book that I can't remember the name of right now, was a professor in England. He's a German man, Eckhart Tolle. And he was very depressed. He was very, very depressed. And he was sitting on a park bench, being very depressed, when, probably due to his doing nothing, he shifted into bliss, just bliss. And he tried, even in that book, the Be Here Now, he tried to explain to people how he got there, because everybody wanted the bliss that he had found. And, I read that whole book very carefully, and I never
Ram
saw.
Dass wrote Be Here Now.
Oh, Ram Dass wrote Be Here Now. Okay, what was Eckhart Tolle's book then? I was talking
I
about you
don't
not
know.
remembering names of books.
We're dealing with smart people
The
here.
Power of Now?
Yeah,
What was The Power of Now? Thank you, thank you. Okay, both of them say the
Okay, we
same
got to go
thing.
back and start all over again. No, we're good.
Thank you, the power of. So, yes, and he was talking about be here in this minute. And, we've always had our spiritual teachers tell us these things, and most of us can't figure out what they mean or how because our left brain does not understand those words. And I'm talking about it every week now because I'm just so impressed with Jill Bolte Taylor's book that I'll think of the name of in a minute. Um, and it's called Whole Brain Living. Whole Brain Living. And I believe her because, first of all, she's a brain scientist, and her explanation is not only does it make sense because that's what she experienced when she had her stroke, but it is usable. I mean, she can tell you which parts of the brain, and she's divided up into left and right hemispheres, and how to get there, how to get to that eternal now.
Yeah.
She gives us tools, which also our spiritual teachers have always taught us, which is to just breathe, try to still your thoughts and breathe. That will take you to that place. But we never knew why. So this is such a logical explanation to me, and I'm reading the book now where she talks about all parts of your brain, all four major parts, are essential to living a good life to living a life as a human being. They're all there for you. But in our industrial society in the US, where we're very achievement oriented, it is the left upper brain that is king and that we promote and we teach our children, which is the logical sequential thinking and mathematics and keeping track of time and time management and how important that is. And it's hard to get out of it when you learn that that's causing you to be successful in school or in work.
Terry McBride, I just happened to think of him, had a wonderful bridge that we can create to get from one side of the brain to the other. The problem with a logical, intelligent, cognitive left brain is that it never stops processing. And because it's processing, we have to have some way to put it on hold. And Terry McBride has this wonderful statement that he makes. He's, I wouldn't be at all surprised, and I can't explain why, that tomorrow the illness that I have will be gone. And that wonderful, beautiful bridge, because what it says is, left brain, you don't have to work on this anymore. It's beyond,
you're off the hook.
It's beyond your ability to figure this out. So stop figuring it out. Just think of it as some kind of magic and look forward to it. And I think if we could interject that into our lives, I wouldn't be at all surprised if by tomorrow I have the solution I need to the problem that I'm facing today. Why don't I just put it on hold and not worry about it and see what happens?
Exactly. And then the right upper lobes of the brain is what she calls the subconscious. And that because she went there when she had a stroke, she lost her whole left brain function. And she was in bliss. She was happy as she could be, with no concerns at all in the right brain. And so she calls this the subconscious, which we call the creative medium where our ideas then create for us. We don't know how, but the results just occur. And that's how that, I wouldn't be a bit surprised, could work. Because you don't have to know. You don't know how.
But
you don't have to know how in that place.
But you have to shut down that figuring out part.
Yes.
And what that also makes me think, too, is about worry. What we do is we worry, and as we worry, we think I have to work harder on this problem, which means I have to increase the intensity of my worry. And if I may be able to worry myself right through this problem because I'm giving it such worried attention, such dynamic attention. And the truth is, the more you do that, it's the old saying, you can't get there from here. You can't get there from here. You've got to be able to put that on hold if you can. Now, the interesting thing about that too, and I'm sure you've had this happen, and we've talked about it before, is if I asked Judith, who is the actor in that movie? She said, I don't know. Can't remember it. 3 hours later.
Or 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be during the middle of the night you wake up, oh, yeah. What that tells us, though, and this is really, really important, is once the brain has the assignment, you don't have to then walk around and be a kind of helicopter parent for it. All you have to really do is to say, I let it go, I release it, and there's a greater me that has the answer, and I know that that's true. And that is really, really huge. So every time we run into an unbelievably difficult situation, we can then say, I don't know how, I can't explain it, but I know that by tomorrow something is going to happen that'll be in favor of me and this life working out.
You know, another phrase that works for that we saw in Shakespeare in Love.
Oh, I love this.
The movie Shakespeare in Love, where, you know, they had no idea how they're going to pull off this play or in what theater. And the producer of it says, I don't know, it's a mystery.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a classic
I
line.
mean, I don't know
Yeah,
how, it's a
yeah.
mystery.
The
But we
people
just
are ready
turn
to,
it over.
The people are all ready to kill him. They're holding him up against the wall. It's a mystery. Yeah. You know, but we need to allow for the mystery. You know, I want to shift gears if we can for a minute though, because this is Mother's Day, and I want to speak a little bit about that. And I was thinking about I've never been a mother in this lifetime. I don't know, so I'm probably going to get it wrong. But what having a baby reminds me of is going to IKEA and buying something that I really want, and then bringing it home and finding out that not only does it have to be assembled, but that there's no directions.
Or you can't understand the
Yeah,
directions.
Yeah, and if it's a baby, it leaks from every orifice. And then, to make things worse, it's not fully developed. You thought when it was born, because it had all of its toes and its ears and its eyes and its feet and its fingers, you thought, it's good, it's ready to go. It's not ready to go.
And it leaks in all those places, and so you have to bathe it. And it's a slippery little thing, and you don't want to drown it.
You know, so we get babies in kit form, if you think about it, really, and they have to be assembled mentally and physically over a long period of time. And I want to speak to the incredible gift that it is to have human beings wired with an innate sense of how to do some of this. Even
Or
though
the desire to learn, anyway.
well, you don't know how. I mean, any more
Yeah,
than
you
when
don't know
I
how.
opened a box of something that I got to put together, it's like I don't know how to do this. And then one screw at a time and one container at a time. And of course, with IKEA, you always end up with extra parts, which is not your fault; it's their fault. But that there's something wonderful about that creative process that also is terrifying. And I think why I want to speak to this is that to be a creator is to be in that wonderful place of excitement and adventure and wonder and fear and terror. Because in fact, it just may not work out. You know, you may not know enough, you may not be able to take care of it. And I say that because when you're on the cutting edge of being creative and you feel that angst, that uncomfortableness, that, oh my God, maybe we shouldn't do this. I think I'm on the right track. And I say I'm on the right track because I know that life comes together kind of like a kit, and that the different pieces that are in different areas will come together out of your intention, out of your desire, and out of your commitment for that creative process. And I say creative process because having a baby is an extraordinary creative process. Literally, it's creative. But so is all of life if you think about it, and it's all creative. And then the other thing I wanted to say about that too, which I think is really important, is that what we create in word, in mind, in thought, in action, has a life of its own after it's been created and continues on. And why that's so important is one of the reasons we're having so much difficulty with pollution now is because we have created it and it has a life of its own, and it's not going away until we direct the energies that we need to transform that. If energy continues and thought is energy, then our thoughts are things that we need to pay attention to. What is the quality of my thinking, and how can I have that be the highest and the best for me and for this world that I live in, because I am constantly creating. And I think we think we're not creating when we're thinking, but we're actually creating.
Well, I want to go back to this creative process of creating a baby.
Yes. I don't want any more of that right now.
And we're talking about coming out of the darkness.
We can rent one.
But there's no part of it that is comfortable. You know, there's no part of it, you know, you start out not feeling well, and then you've got this strange weight in you that as it progresses, it's tiptoeing along your bladder and causing discomfort in your pelvis, and things shift and move, and it's really not pleasant. And yet, you know, women so eagerly move into it, hopefully many of them, and because of the reward, you know, the reward of the love of which there is no equal, really. And yet, you know, the whole process of delivery is certainly not fun. There's a lot of darkness there, and then the terror, as you talk about the terror of how do I take care of this little thing? You know, in 100 years before, like in the 1800s, people grew up with lots of siblings. So by the time they were growing up, maybe they had taken care of lots of babies and they knew how to do that. But in today's world, where you have one or two kids, I knew I didn't have an idea what to do,
Yeah.
and it's terrorizing. And yet, out of that terror comes the greatest love of all, I think, that exists in our world. And so it's a great reward. Out of that darkness, out of all that pain, comes the great reward. And I think that's what we need to remember. I have a couple of quotes here about coming out of the dark. And oh, I wanted to go back to what Bob and I were talking about. There is no time in life that I remember that everybody said, "Boy, these are great times." There's always been problems, and everybody idealizes the '50s now as this time of ease
It
and
was a wonderful time, Judith. You only had to climb under your desk to protect yourself from nuclear bombs.
exactly.
And, that was a good
That's
time.
what we were
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah.
That's what we were doing in the '50s, and everybody says, "Oh, what a wonderful time." Yeah, we were just worried about nuclear war ending the world. What we talked about, we both saw the movie On the Beach, which was two people, the last two people in the world on Earth, awaiting the atomic bomb to hit them. I used to worry about what would it be like being the last person on Earth. A 10-year-old is worrying about that. So the times, and if we go back before that, there was the Great Depression, and if we go back before that, it was always something horrible going
There
on,
was
or
a,
a war,
yeah, there
or
was,
something.
the,
Yeah,
the time before HBO and Showtime. I mean, oh my
I
God.
know. So, we've always lived in hard times, and some of those times we idealize. And this time is really, the word a crisis in Chinese means both great, I'm trying to remember both things, but I know it means opportunity as well as something terrible. So a crisis is always an opportunity. And we can have that opportunity right now with our earth changes and what we can do to help that. I'm so motivated and excited to finally see our big industries working on what they can do to bring about a change in the carbon dioxide in our environment that's warming up the planet. But I want to share this quote, who's by a social justice activist. His name is L.R. Nost. He was a writer, he is a writer and social justice activator. He says, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. With time, as they say, but also with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world awaits in darkness for the light that is you." So we can
That's
we
great.
can all make a difference with that.
Yeah.
And Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist monk, says this: "Practicing loving kindness toward ourselves and others is as good a way as any to start illuminating the darkness of difficult times." And of course, I've got to have some words of wisdom from Ernest Holmes, our founder. And he says, "No harm can come to you when you know that God is at the center of everything. This knowledge will protect you from all evil. Evil is as night before the onrushing light of your consciousness. It is as darkness dissipated by the sun of your faith. It is as fire extinguished by the waters of your spirit." So our
Beautifully written.
faith truly can get us out of any darkness, any fear. And I would like to share a story. This is a story about having children, childbirth, becoming mother, and it also fits for these times. It so happens that there were two identical twins that found themselves in a very dark place, but it was very comfortable. It was their mother's uterus, and it provided all their needs. And they said, "Aren't we fortunate that our mother provides us with all the nourishment, everything we need to be here and to be here in comfort, and we can develop." And so these twins, as they developed, began chatting with each other, and they were exploring their world. They found their mother's cord that gave them life, and they sang for joy. How great is our mother's love that she shares her one life with us. And the other one said, but what does it mean? And he says, well, they found that it was getting tight in there. And when the one said, what does it mean? He says, it means that our stay in the world is drawing to an end, said the other. But I don't want to go. I want to stay here always. We have no choice, said the other. But maybe there is life after birth. But how can there be, responded the other. We'll shared our life cord, and how is life possible without it? Besides, we have no evidence that others were ever here before us, and none of them have returned to tell us that there is life after birth. No, this has got to be the end. And so one fell into deep despair, saying, conception ends in birth. What is the purpose of life in the womb? It's meaningless. Maybe there is no mother after all. Oh no, there has to be, protested the other one. How else did we get here? How do we remain alive? Well, have you ever seen our mother? Maybe she lives only in our minds. Maybe we made her up because it made us feel good. So the last days in the womb were filled with deep questioning and fear. Finally, the moment of birth arrived, and when the twins passed from their world, they opened their eyes. They cried, for what they saw exceeded their fondest dreams. And I propose to you,
They were slapped.
or they were spanked. I propose to you that that's what we'll experience, and what so many people experience before making their transition from what we call life through this process we call death. I think it will be just like that.
You know, what's interesting to me is I think of, as I said earlier, a baby is born half-baked. But actually, as I think about it, this entire lifetime is us being half-baked. And you know, that we are completing the growing up task right up until the very last day. And the growing up task has different chapters that requires different learning and different experiences. We tend to think of the first chapters as the good chapters, and then the ones where the body isn't functioning as well as it could as the last chapters or the bad chapters, as opposed to chapters in which there are other very special and important lessons to be learned.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, so I think this whole process of aging is a process that has its lessons that you couldn't learn if you didn't have that period, if you didn't have that experience, and it's just fascinating to me.
It sure is. And a lot of people thought that all the good times were when you're in your 20s or whatnot.
Yeah.
But you're right. Every era has its gifts and its benefits. So I think this matter of feeling like we need to come out of the darkness is the darkness is relative. It's a judgment, actually, on our parts. Not that we wouldn't like things to be better, we would, but
So
we can do our part, and our part is this, and this is taken from Gandhi. We need to be the love we want to see in the world. We need to be the joy we want to see in the world. We need to be the kindness we want to see in the world, because that's how we bring it about.
Right.
And so I hereby give you permission to be joyous in a dark time, if you consider the dark time. And I don't. I see it as a very innovative, exciting time, transitioning to what many people would call our brave new world. Many people believe that we are transitioning into a higher vibration world where things will be more loving, more kind, and easier. So we will see, but it's a mystery.
And we're going to enjoy and appreciate the mystery.
Every minute of it.
So I think this is where we wrap it up.
I think you get to say the closing
I
prayer.
was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
So we are together in this moment, in this hour, And we know together that each of us is a divine expression of a God, of a light, of an intelligence that is ever present. There is no place that we know of, there's no place that can possibly exist that does not have that light, that intelligence, that divine capacity to grow and develop and love and live and express. So we accept our own divine expression of life and of living. We accept lovingly the stages that each of us goes through to learn and to grow and to develop. And we say thank you. We say thank you for the extraordinary opportunity that has been given us to live this life, to express ourselves in this life, and to be all that this life has for us. Knowing this to be true, we say thank you, and together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
So, yes, you're going to